There are a number of factors which go into determining which implant to utilize in a given situation. There is no need to review Straumann's track record with regard to science, research, and precision. There's also no need to discuss the SL active surface. So let's look at implant configuration and let's look at implant composition. From configuration, we'll begin at the neck of the implant and work our way down. There are only two implant designs available in implantology. There is one where the restoration rests on the body of the implant, and one where the restoration rests on the implant abutment. The Straumann tissue-level implant affords the opportunity to have the restoration rest upon the body of the implant. Finite element analyses and other studies have demonstrated that when the implant restoration rests upon the body of the implant, you have reduction of the stresses distributed to the peri-implant crestal bone and a reduction of the stresses distributed to the implant abutment interface. As a result, whenever I am in a molar area, which is a higher stress situation, I always utilize a Straumann tissue-level implant. The same is true in mandibular bicuspid regions. The reason I do not utilize that design in most maxillary bicuspid regions is because of the inherent aesthetic compromise, which we will discuss. Now, in these molar areas and mandibular bicuspid areas, we now look at the body design. I can utilize a parallel wall design, which expands to the restorative platform supracrestally, or utilize a tapered effect design, which begins to expand to the restorative platform subcrestally. In molar areas, if I'm doing an immediate implant placement at the time of molar extraction, which I perform approximately 96% of the time, I will utilize either a parallel wall or tapered effect implant body, depending upon which one offers me the greater primary stability in an ideal position. However, if the molar has been missing for a while and there's been some ridge atrophy, I always utilize a parallel wall design which expands to the 6.5 restorative platform supracrestally. This design results in greater preservation of bone buccally and palatally/lingually around the implant after implant placement than if you begin to expand subcrestally to the final restorative platform dimension. In bicuspid areas, I always utilize a parallel wall design expanding supracrestally to my 4.8 millimeter platform. Now, because of composition, because I can utilize a rock-solid implant, which is a titanium zirconium alloy and is much stronger than commercially pure titanium, I'll very often utilize a 3.3 body parallel wall implant in the bicuspid areas in the mandible, which expands to my 4.8 restorative platform supracrestally. I do this to either obviate or lessen the need for concomitant regenerative therapy, and I sacrifice no strength because it's a rock-solid composition. So in summary, in all molar sites, in mandibular bicuspid sites, it's always a tissue-level implant. Whether it's parallel wall or tapered effect, which begins to expand subcrestally, depends on the specific indication. The problem with utilizing a tissue-level implant in the aesthetic zone is the inherent aesthetic compromise as the neck of the implant passes through the soft tissues, resulting in graying of the soft tissues. In addition, you're limited in your neck diameters so that it is not appropriate to utilize this implant in various areas in the aesthetic zone. Finally, it is unforgiving and must be placed precisely to get an aesthetic restoration. While it is certainly possible, as has been demonstrated for decades, it is not the implant design of choice today in the aesthetic zone. In those areas, we utilize the bone-level implant design, with the implant restoration resting upon the implant abutment. Now we have various options with this design. We can utilize a 3.3, 4.1, or 4.8 neck diameter. We can utilize a parallel wall or bone-level taper design. So let's take a look at each. The advantages to the parallel wall design with the bone-level implant include the following. Number one, you have more long-term data. Number two, you have a slightly greater surface area in the 2 millimeters of crestal bone around the implant, the area where stresses are most dramatic. Number three, it's easier to place a parallel wall design in dense bone than a tapered design. However, the bone-level tapered implant also offers advantages. You can avoid various structures. You can avoid or lessen the need for augmentation in tapered ridges. etc. Those advantages are obvious. However, there's another advantage. If you're doing ridge splitting, the wedging effect gives you greater primary stability in a ridge split area as well. If you're placing an implant along the long axis of the tooth in an extraction socket, placement is easier when you utilize a bone-level tapered implant. However, it is not the implant of choice in all extraction socket areas. If you're going to redirect the implant off of the long axis of the tooth, the parallel wall implant offers you a greater ability to do so. You can walk down the palatal wall of an extraction socket, redirect off of the long axis of the tooth, and maintain your horizontal defect dimension for bone grafting to counteract the effects of bundle bone resorption post-extraction during healing. Finally, osteotomy preparation must be much more precise with regard to depth with a bone-level taper design. With a parallel wall design, if you happen to prepare too deeply, you simply don't go as deeply with your implant. You can't do that with the taper design. You must go to the depth you prepared. The Straumann portfolio, which now includes tissue-level parallel wall implants, tissue-level tapered effect implants, bone-level parallel wall implants, bone-level taper implants, and the rock-solid composition, now affords us the opportunity to select different implant designs and configurations in different sites in the same patients. We're not performing implantology. We're performing bespoke implantology. No longer do we have to make the patient fit the implant. Rather, the implant fits the specific site of the patient. Bespoke implantology is state-of-the-art today, and it's what our patients deserve.